So if you were to take your backswing and just let your right hip kind of climb up and back, losing some flexion here in the right knee, you're gonna feel two things. One, you're gonna feel a bigger hip turn, and two, you're gonna feel a bigger shoulder turn.
Yeah.
Right? It's gonna free up the torso and the spine now a little bit to turn because we're letting that right leg turn a little bit more. Now, go ahead and let's do the same thing, but keep the flexion in the right knee and just try to turn more of the upper, and things get a little bit tighter, right? And a little bit more restricted, and that right knee tends to put the brakes on a little bit more, and as you said, resist.
Yeah.
And then we let that right knee go some, and now the right hip climbs up and back.
I want to talk to you today about Live View Golf. Now, you guys hear me say all the time that you need feedback when you're practicing. You need to know if you're actually doing what you're trying to do, and the best way to give yourself feedback ultimately is video. And not only is video the best way to give yourself feedback, but being able to see yourself simultaneously as you're doing a movement is the best form of video feedback. It's the best way I've seen to make changes in your swing and be able to correlate the differences between your feels and your reels. Live View is super easy to use and set up. Simply set it up behind or in front of you. You connect it with your iPad or phone, pop that on the ground. You can actually do your practice, see yourself as you're doing it, the best way to expedite your process. I encourage you guys to check out Live View Golf. We'll put a link in the description down below with a coupon code. What's up, guys? In today's video, we're going to talk about the best backswing for senior golfers. And if you're a senior golfer, even if you're not a senior golfer, how to get more distance or get your distance back as you age. And to my left, again, the man who needs no introduction at all. You guys have seen him before. You know him, Travis Fulton. Travis, thank you for having us out.
Hey. Thanks for being here.
Beautiful day out here at Jacksonville Golf and Country Club, 80 degrees sunny, and we're excited to talk some backswing, some senior stuff. So if you don't follow Travis on Instagram, he's on there. We're going to put the link to all his information down below. He's got a couple awesome podcasts, awesome golf coach, golf personality, really funny guy in the podcast. When you can see his personality there, you guys will really enjoy that. We'll put all that down below. And I was actually looking at Travis's Instagram, kind of creeping on him a little bit the past couple of days to come up with videos. And a couple of the videos that I saw, because there's so many that I like, right? But what are things we could talk about that I think would be really useful to the people we're going to watch? And there were a couple backswing videos.
Yeah.
And there were a couple pieces with the backswing that I'd really love if we talk about in particular. So maybe to start us off, Travis, if we would say, for the senior golfer, as they get older, there's usually some movement patterns we see, cause their backswing to be short or lose distance, and some things we could do to help them.
Yeah, I think the first thing is as we get older, right, and we're facing it too, we start we start losing maybe some range of motion.
Yeah.
We tend to kind of hang out more just kind of down this way, and we just don't want to turn, right? Yeah, get up this way and just kind of get things lengthened out a little bit. I say it all the time, I'm lengthening out more people than I'm shortening up. And sometimes I think the perception of the player too is like, I just need to swing shorter, and I'm going to kind of shorten things up to here. And when they do that, they don't turn as much, and it's hard to kind of keep the club head speed up, right? So we start losing speed, but we see players, and I know best players on TV that are just kind of continuing to get longer, right? And their swings, yes, they do shorten up a little bit, but they're still pretty lengthened out. Like Stuart's saying, hey,
heck yeah,
he's busting it out there at 47 years of age. Nice long backswing. Phil Mickelson, nice long backswing. So where do we need to recruit from, right, to keep things lengthened out so we can keep the speed up? And the first place that I always go, Eric, is that right leg for a right-handed player, and making sure that we're getting some hip turn, right? I think we went through an era there where it was like the perception was turn the shoulders and not the hips. The hip turn was very passive and quiet in the backswing.
Resist it, maybe even.
Resistance, yeah, that was the word. And I think we're kind of in a much better spot now where let's let the right hip turn, like the classical swing. Let's let the right knee lose some flexion and get the right hip, as I like to call it, moving up and back. I think that's kind of the word, or the two words, is up and back. So if you were to take your backswing and just let your right hip kind of climb up and back, losing some flexion here in the right knee, you're going to feel two things. One, you're going to feel a bigger hip turn, and two, you're going to feel a bigger shoulder turn.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to free up the torso and the spine now a little bit to turn because we're letting that right leg turn a little bit more. Now, go ahead and let's do the same thing, but keep the flexion in the right knee and just try to turn more of the upper, and things get a little bit tighter, right? And a little bit more restricted, and that right knee tends to put the brakes on a little bit more, and as you said, resist.
Yeah.
And then we let that right knee go some, and now the right hip climbs up and back. I find that people, they respond to that. They respond to up and back with the right hip. I think both words are important. I think up gets the hip higher, and higher than the left. The right hip, go ahead and do that again.
Yeah.
You can see the tilt and the orientation here. The right side of the pelvis is a little bit taller than the left. And I think back, suggesting that it's working back towards the right heel. So we're feeling some pressure moving kind of deeper into the right heel. And all of that is really, really valuable in starting to create some movement that's going to get this to lengthen out a little bit more to the top.
It's wild for me to do, and I hope that some of you guys will do the same thing, where you made me do the good versus the bad. Like to make a backswing where I'm keeping my trail leg bent and not turning my hips as much and trying to turn my torso. And I'm not like the most flexible guy in the world, but like I can move a little.
Yeah.
And
You're in good shape. Yeah.
that's about as much as I'm going, and it's hard.
Yeah.
And I really like something you do, to give you another compliment, you do really nicely, is to package something in a really easy to understand and implement thing. Like your right hip up and back is really like a bunch of micro things going on, but to simply feel the hip up and back, and I really like that cue when I work back, I mean, that feels like wildly more turn without wildly more effort.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the turn for free.
Yeah.
And I'm on the same pattern, right, of when you and I coached. I'm sure 99% of the time we're saying the same stuff. Almost the first thing I'd look at, maybe beyond the setup, would be the trail leg and the hip turn.
Yeah.
Right? Allow some freedom of motion to get the torso turning.
Yeah.
And I know another thing we run into, and one other key on that, Travis said up, right, and back, not up, back, and away.
Right.
So it's just up and back,
Yeah.
right? So as I'm doing them, turning there, not up, back, and away
Right.
to the right. Now in with that, there's some overbody stuff, right?
There is, yeah. So when you do that, it's like we're starting to kind of recruit, up from the ground per se. Like there's some pressure moving into the right heel. We feel the right leg kind of climbing. I like the word elongating. I like the word
that.
elongating
Spell
up
it,
and
I like
back. And now the energy wants to keep going up that chain. It wants to keep spiraling.
Feels really good.
Yeah, and the spine now, we can recruit from the spine and get some extension. So go ahead and stand up for a minute, Eric. Just kind of stand up neutral. Now, right now, if you went forward, you would flex your spine forward, right? Now go ahead and go back to neutral and now extend back. So that's spine extension. And spine extension is a good thing in the context of rotation. And of course, in golf, we've got to rotate in both directions. So spine extension is needed for a number of different things. But one of the things that I like with spine extension is it goes beautifully with this right leg.
Yeah.
And it really just continues this lengthening out the right way. So let's go ahead
Yeah.
and now add the upper.
So I'm feeling the right hip up and back, and now I'm kind of feeling as I do that, Travis, like chest a little more up.
Yeah, yep, that's exactly right.
So right hip up and back.
Yeah, it almost feels like you get a little taller, right? Almost.
I gotta tell you, and this is something that I can personally do better in my swing. Like that feels really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like from there that, and ironically, it feels way easier and like less effort than if I tried to restrict. Like this for me feels really hard.
Yeah.
This, pulling my right hip up and back and letting my shirt buttons or chest work a little bit more up,
Yeah.
I mean, feels really nice and
And your
athletic.
swing just lengthened out tremendously.
Yeah.
And it all had good structure to it. It looked clean. It
Yeah.
looked very clean from the context of the arms and the hand and the club all the way now what I would say is pretty close to parallel the right way. So spine extension is a good thing. I find myself saying spine extension 1,000 more times than I would say spine flexion or staying down.
Yes.
You're trying to get people to recruit up and elongate. Yeah, there's flexion, right? And you're staying down and flex. Yeah, look at the difference in the travel of the hands and the club when you look at that. Look at where your hands are right there, Eric.
Yeah.
And now go ahead and extend. Now look where they are. I mean, that's incredible.
And that's just from that one move.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And what does that mean in the way of power? I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's a game changer for not only for the senior golfer, yes, but for everybody for that matter, and keeping this lengthened out properly. So yes, more power. I also think it has accuracy value to it as well, because now you're behind the ball. You've got more time to do what you want to do coming down, and then create the necessary rotation on the other side.
So good, dude. And I think those visuals of like where my hands
Yeah.
and where the club are at the top, and I like the way that's packaged. If we're starting from part one of the hip working up and back,
Yeah.
which comes from the leg extending or straightening, allows the hips to turn more, kind of maybe that gets me an extra couple of inches.
Sure.
But then if I do the extension with it,
Yep.
then that would be like part two to get me to the full length.
Yeah, and do that, and just go ahead and stay looking at it,
Yeah.
and you'll notice one of the comments that I get a lot is it feels like I'm getting taller and I don't want to pull off the ball. Well, you're still looking at it and you're keeping your orientation to the ball, your tilt.
Yeah.
So you can see your right side is higher than your left. Right shoulder's higher than your left shoulder.
Yeah.
Right hip's higher than your left hip. Right knee's higher than your left knee. Though that's your orientation to the ball. Now, if you were to do that and pull off the ball, right, and now your left side starts to get taller than your right, well then of course you're gonna lose sight of it, and you're gonna miss it, right?
And part of that too, like, you know, and in the sake of trying to keep this video simple, you and I could talk about everything, right?
Right.
You gotta have side bend too.
Yeah, you gotta stay
side
looking
bend.
at it. Just keep yourself looking down at it. So I encourage people, look, go up that chain, be aggressive, right
Yeah.
hip, spine, just keep your orientation and you'll be amazed.
I like that when you were doing this too. So as I'm kind of going out with my arms out, my
Yeah.
hip works up and back, my chest is up, but I'm still keeping that, you know, and again, something you do nice without me have to think about, like a technical piece, is just keep myself looking at it.
That's right. Yeah.
So as I'm working back there like that, I can do my chest up and keep my face at the ball,
Yeah.
essentially. I have a little bit of tilt there with
That's
that.
right.
And so I would challenge you guys and gals watching to see where you're at with it, right? Especially if you're someone who, as you get older, I think the piece that Travis and I see a lot is the trail leg stays too bent, doesn't work up or back enough, the hips don't turn enough, and then the torso and the chest would be more down, head off the ball, probably shoulders level. And so I would do some of those like I did, where Travis had me feel the don't allow the leg to go, don't turn. See what that feels like to you. See how long your swing is. And then do the opposite and see. And probably in the beginning, I'm gonna hit some, I have a 5-iron here.
Okay.
I'm gonna hit a couple irons with it. And Travis, like, same deal, right? If I wanna lengthen out my swing and not be so short,
That's right.
elements of the same thing with irons.
Yeah. Beautiful. Lengthen it out. It's got
Yeah.
wonderful value to long irons, fairway woods. You can be able to launch the ball higher.
Hit them higher, land them softer, shorter
Yeah.
clubs. So let's just do a couple just as I'm kind of talking through the feels there as I'm going. So love the hip up and back. Hip up and back. My shirt buttons feel like it's a little bit more up on the way. And my hands are gonna travel a little farther, club a little farther. Let's go ahead and do one or two just with those feels. So hip up and back. I feel like my shirt buttons are working a little bit more up towards the sky. Yeah, dude, that couldn't hit any better than
Yeah.
that.
Nice, beautiful, long iron there.
That's about as good as
just love
I
the
personally
value
got.
through the bag. It's just not speed. It's, you know, now you start launching it a little bit higher. Your
Yeah.
path gets better.
Yeah, there's all kinds of like ancillary stuff going to happen as a
Yeah,
reaction.
there is. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that felt so good. I'm going to do one more. So I'm feeling my hip up and back, my shirt buttons up towards the sky a little bit. Still keep my face at the ball. Hip up and back, shirt buttons up.
Really good there. And one thing I notice, like when you're doing that, and I get this a lot when you get people doing this right leg and spine, they say, you know what? It's hard for me to get quick.
Yeah,
It's hard for me to just go boom, boom.
yeah.
Like, because I have to kind of let this happen. I have to, it kind of slows it down. It makes it maybe just a bit more deliberate in time in their mind. So they tend to slow down a little bit and recruit and then go get it rather than just maybe arms and hands. with
Yeah.
no turn.
It's like it makes your backswing take a longer time.
Yeah, exactly.
Gives you more time to get settled for the
Kind of
downswing.
stretches out and then,
Elongates.
yeah,
Um,
elongate. There you go.
So, you know, I think the majority of players that we see struggle with doing those. So I think that what we just talked about probably fits 90+%.
Yeah,
of
it's
course,
big.
you're going to have some golfers who like overextend the lead leg too early, or and that's a special circumstance.
Sure.
But I think in general, these things are fairly safe to like let yourself roll with them quite a bit, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I find myself talking this all the time here, Jacksonville Golf and Country Club, in, again, lengthening people out
Yes.
way more than saying, hey, let's turn less. Let's stay down in flexion. You know, let's get this
Yeah.
and then let's go from there. So yeah, man, it's like a brokered record sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And so many times it's like I've been trying to go a little shorter, And it's like, no, let's turn the volume up here a
Do
little
the
bit.
opposite. Yeah.
And then you'll feel perhaps a little out of control at first.
Yeah.
Because it's like, whoa, you know, like that's different. But pretty soon it's like, wow, as you said, this feels good. It feels comfortable. I can feel the speed and the pressure in my heel. Now I feel like I've got more to work with to go get it.
I love it, dude. And I think when in the first couple swings of doing it, you know, utilize video feedback, see that it's actually changing. Because anything like that, if it just might feel a little bit wild in the beginning, if you don't hit it perfect, who cares?
Yeah.
See that it actually lengthens out your swing, especially for the senior golfer for
Yeah.
the backswing, man.
Yeah.
You want to get longer, lengthen out as you go. And I bet some people will do this, the last little note on it, I bet some people will do this and hit it significantly farther, even farther
Yes.
than they think they might be able to with these pieces. So, dude, another
Hey,
just
thank you.
beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful video.
Appreciate it, yeah.
Hopefully, guys and gals, that serves you well. Those backswing pieces, like Travis, I find myself saying those same things over and over. And usually when things become cliche or you say them all day, it's because they're the correct things, right? They're important.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and put a card on the screen for another similar video to this during the backswing. We're gonna put Travis's information down below. You can check out his Instagram, all the podcasts, awesome stuff. And we'll put a logo to CogornoGolf.com. Would love to work together.